We're pleased to be doing this trial with Veritas and Veldale Farms, looking at the impact of cover crops on the following year's crop.
So we're on the home farm here at Veldale Farms right in Oxford Center. It's a fairly rolling farm, so you can see the hills in the background and the different topography. So we're working at minimizing erosion, and one of our core practices with that is using the strip till unit as our only method of tillage, and also incorporating cover crops into the rotation.
From a watershed standpoint, doing actions up in the headwaters of a landscape is a really important part of making sure water quality and water quantity is improved for downstream areas. So something like cover crops, which we have here, is a really important tool that we have to improve infiltration and get water soaking into the landscape instead of producing surface runoff in the extreme rain events that we often see these days.
This was an idea pitched to us by Upper Thames to be a part of this trial with Aaron Breimer and Veritas. He did up a prescription for us using a cover crop mix that we designed ourselves. In it we have 18 pounds of oats, 1 pound of radish, 5 pounds of forage peas, 10 pounds of hairy vetch, and 1 pound of sunflower. And my interest in this project is to see the difference between where we have the cover crop planted and where we don't. And also it's my first time using hairy vetch in a cover crop, and I'd be very interested to see if we can get a nitrogen credit out of it for the following corn crop next year. The bulk of the cover crop is designed to die over the winter time, but we're allowing the hairy vetch to survive the winter, and we will manage it in the springtime.
There's probably a few people wondering why I'm wearing a Deveron shirt. I'm well known for working for a company called Veritas Farm Business Management. About 3 years ago, Deveron actually purchased Veritas. Veritas is a well-known Ontario brand, and we maintain it in Ontario. But Deveron does do work across North America, and this is a prime example of some of the work that Deveron can bring to different partners such as the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority, as well as Ontario farmers. One of the things that's really interesting about this particular project is the soil test data that was also included is very intensive. So not only are we going to be able to see if the cover crops are adding to the bottom line, we're going to be able to understand the interactions between cover crops, the economic response, and the soil fertility and soil type and test levels. So it's the complexity of the data that really attracts us.
This is a trial for me as well. It's my first time seeding the cover crop using the actual strip till unit. We just ran it lightly over the ground, not to disturb the soil too much, but to try to incorporate the seed lightly. And so our total seeding weight was 35 pounds of this mix. And I'm very happy with the way it has established this year and the kind of growth that we're seeing going into the winter here. Worked with Aaron Breimer at Veritas, and he sent us a prescription for the seeding. And in the prescription there is blocks 120 feet by 120 feet that are set up at a 0 seeding rate. So basically I just put that prescription into the tractor monitor, and we seeded the field using that prescription, and the strip till just shut off in those areas where we wanted a 0 rate. And so the blocks are out there now with very little effort on my part.
So by having check blocks and actually having them pre-programmed right into the prescription, we get to be able to do what we call complete randomized block trial work, be able to see if there's consistent data responses, and just do a better job on the data insights.
So one of the things that you'll see as we're flying over this field is that the blocks aren't perfectly cleared of anything. And what you're seeing out there is volunteer wheat regrowth from harvesting the wheat earlier on. And you're also seeing azuki bean plants that would have been grown in the summer of 2020, which have a very good seed on them for regrowing in years that follow the crop. Is to seed the cover crop into this condensed area every 30 inches, and then plant the cash crop next year, the corn crop, 15 inches in between on 30-inch spacing. So this will just allow us to be a little bit further away from the residue of the cover crop in the spring, because sometimes when we're seeding with the air seeder and your rows are 7.5 inches, we feel that the berm isn't being built quite good enough to keep the residue far enough away from the following cash crop.
Been a lot of work done around cover crops, around carbon sequestration, around soil health, and I think this is really important. We mentioned earlier that I like to look at cover crops from a financial and economic lens. So when I look at historical data, as well as what one of the things that's really interesting about this is this site is including hairy vetch and looking at nitrogen credits. I'm not sure if anyone's checked into fertilizer prices recently, but nitrogen's through the roof. All fertilizers through the roof. So I think what's going to be really interesting in this particular site is, what is that nitrogen credit? Is there a nitrogen credit? And is that tied into the economics? However, from past work that I've done, when you include oats into the mix, you really make phosphorus more available to the plant. And so with phosphorus also basically doubling in price year over year, I think that you look at that historical data, that cover crops, especially cover crop oats, probably adds a lot to the bottom line.
I think cover crops are kind of a proven practice when it comes to improving soil and water quality. And from this trial, we're hoping to put a value on cover crops from an economic standpoint.